You're now listening to Sound Talent Media. Check out more shows at soundtalentmedia.com.
Hey, what's up, everyone? I'm Matt McGackie, the vocalist of Cryptopsy and the host of the Vox and Hops Metal Podcast, where I sit down with fellow metal musicians. We talk all about their lives and music while sharing killer craft beers. If you've ever wanted to sneak backstage and share a beer with one of your favorite musicians, well, Vox and Hops is the podcast for you. This week on the podcast, I dropped a killer episode with Kelly Schaefer of Atheist. There is this episode and over 440 other ones to help you enjoy life, metal, and craft beer. So what are you waiting for? It's time to become a Vox and Hops head. Cheers.
What is up, good people? I hope you had a tremendous holiday. We had a pretty good one over here, and I thank you for allowing that to happen. I really appreciate you tuning into this today. Like I've said a million times in the past, you could be doing anything right now, and the fact that you're choosing to spend this time with me means a lot. And I genuinely thank you for it. Today's episode is with my friend Doug Cower from Cower Guitars. He was on the show a million years ago, and things have just went crazy for both of us. And this episode was actually supposed to come out a few months ago. I delayed putting it out because Doug and I were trying to reschedule to record the patron bonus content, but schedules being what they are, that didn't really work out. So for you patrons this week, I am doing something a little bit different that I think you're really going to enjoy. So a little peek behind the curtain, so to speak. I think that'll be fun. So if you would like to support the show and get that sneak peek behind the curtain, please go to patreon.com/tonemob, where for $5 a month, you can get additional bonus content delivered to your ears every week. Or you can check out Apple Podcasts and check out their subscribe feature, where you will also get that same bonus content delivered to your ears, but in a slightly more convenient fashion if you are indeed an Apple user. So there you go. Those are the plugs for this week. Let's get into this episode with my dude, Doug. It is a much needed update, and if you aren't familiar with Cower Guitars, do a quick Google and please your eyeballs. You're really going to like what you see. All right, let's get into it. Here we go. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode of the Tone Mob Podcast, the show about guitar stuff, occasionally, sometimes. I'm your host, Blake Weiland, and with me today, I have returning somebody from many moons ago on the podcast, my friend, Mr. Doug Cower, is finally back.
Yay! And with working internet connection this time.
Hey,
so
we're doing it. We're doing the
hopefully.
Yeah.
You know, I had a thought I feel like the last time I saw you, you were in cardboard form. That's how long it's been.
Was it? No, I don't think so. No.
I mean, I'm sure I had to see you at Winter NAMM in the last, 3 years ago now, I guess, or 2 years ago.
Me whatever the last Winter NAMM was.
Yeah. I still like cardboard version most.
Well, he's nicer. He's a lot nicer.
He's probably thinner and kind of shallow, but more flexible.
Yeah. Well, now he's dead. I took his head off. Well, so at that, it would have been whatever summer NAMM that was. The last summer NAMM I went to was not the last summer NAMM, which was, something else entirely. But Jonathan Diaz, he's the one who made that, and he toted it around to all these different events.
That was hilarious, by the way.
It was really funny seeing me with like Greg Koch and like all these people. I'm like, what in the world is going on? But nobody wanted to take him home because he was big, and I didn't want to take him home because I don't want to look at me any more than I have to, But I was like, but this is kind of funny. I don't want to like totally forget about it. So I there's a video on Instagram of me cutting his head off.
Oh man, yeah, that works. A lot easier to travel is just a head.
Yeah, so I just cut his head off, and then I saw the people from Band Lab and Harmony and all that, and Ryan Burke introduced me to him, and they were like, "Why do you have a cardboard head of yourself?"
Oh man, the best would be just to go around to like the movie theaters and stuff when they have the full like The Rock, cardboard cutouts and just keep putting your head on them and stuff. That'd be great.
It's funny because one of my friends stole Damian Lillard's head from a Blazers game, and so. But he left it over here, and they're about the same size. So I have like 2 cardboard heads in my stretch shed for no reason.
Not creepy at all.
Not creepy at all. Not at all. Really hilarious, and it shows you like how kids are like we should be more like kids.
Mm-hmm.
My youngest knew that I had the cardboard head, right? Actually, wasn't my youngest? No, it was my oldest because this was how long ago it's been. Wow.
Sure.
He knew I had the cardboard head, but he hadn't seen the Damian Lillard head yet. So he came out to the shed and he was just hanging out and he saw the Damian Lillard head on the ground. And I took a video and I sent it to my family, but he was like, I'm like, who is that? He's like, that's Dad.
Yeah, it is.
I was like, yeah, I am also an extremely successful and very talented, very wealthy basketball player.
Yep. Yeah.
Rapper. That is me.
It's good to hide the wealth from your kids. So that's what we do here.
Of course. Yes, of course.
That's what we pretend to tell them, at least, that we're not actually super poor.
We're not cosplaying this. This is
yeah.
Well, dude, so much has happened since you last came on the show. I think for anyone who's not familiar with you, they should go back and listen to that episode so that they can kind of get the whole like general backstory. But when it's somebody's second appearance, I never feel like doing that again. Like we don't need to rehash that. But
everybody knows it.
What has happened in the time since? I know you've got more employees, you've moved shop.
Oh man.
And like there's a bunch of stuff. So what's happened since then that I know
I'm trying to think of how long ago that was. Well, I mean, I think the last time we did the podcast together, Paul Roney was still working in the shop.
Mm-hmm.
Who I can see his work in the background there.
That's right. There it is.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot's happened. I mean, I'm still in the same shop space. Paul's moved out. He moved back up to Portland or Vancouver or whatever, still the same up there. And then, I mean, a lot's been going on. We've had some employees come and go. We're at currently, let's see, 4 full-time employees, 1 part-time, hopefully next week he'll be on part-time. And then myself,
right.
It's been crazy. It's been a weird, I mean, there's like, I don't know. I feel like we're in like the, before COVID and after COVID stretch, or during COVID, I guess, DC stretch, maybe. I don't know. Like before COVID, everything was kind of progressing normally. We were still making daylighters way back when. We don't do that anymore. I find most of what we make, with the exception of Banshee, has kind of a 5-6 year lifespan. Which sucks, honestly, in some regards. But Daylighter just kind of ran out of steam. And then I think part of that's because I think, honestly, it sounds conceited, but I think Dennis Fano and I kind of brought the like jazz master that's not a jazz master thing into the Vogue or whatever. And then like everybody started doing it. Like ironically, the 2016 NAMM, I think, was the year we were. It was the first year that John Serva had shown at NAMM.
Okay.
In, I don't know, maybe ever, or, at Sir Guitars. And so they had this huge, like, full island, like, whatever, of 20 by, that's the joy of me being out in the other room, is you get to hear the Charlie Brown clock go off occasionally here. But anyway, they had this huge island, and we only had like the, 40 by, or 2 booth spots essentially. But the cool thing was they had put up like these walls around their island, and then they had this giant picture of their new model, and it was their Jazzmaster thing. And I was like, yeah, we're done. I think when Sir's doing it, we probably run this thing as far as we could. I'm like, oh yeah, I remember when we made that like 4 years ago. But they ended up being John and his like I don't remember what the guy's title was, like production manager or whatever, like main, his number 2 guy. They were really sweet. They were great NAMM neighbors, honestly. And the wall was great because it not only did it keep their noise down, it essentially gave us the entire walkway. And then we didn't have to worry about being as loud, though I'm pretty strict about it because I don't want to listen to it for 4 days. But it felt like we could be a little bit more annoying and not annoy those guys. And it worked out great. But yeah, we were doing that. And then we kind of phased into Starliner carved tops. 2016 is when we did Titan. That was the year we launched that. That went pretty much how I expected it would go. You know, it ran pretty hard for a couple years, and then it kind of just petered out. And yeah, we did that. And then Super Chief came out. Super Chief is my favorite thing that we make. I mean, it's everything I've ever wanted to make in a guitar. It's been probably the reason I've been in a bit of a rut, because I don't really know what to do right now. Like I can't think of what to top that guitar. So that was all BC before COVID. You know, things were good. We got to do a lot of fun stuff, and it was moving kind of the right direction, but it was still kind of a struggle, to be honest. I mean, it's always a struggle, but like then COVID hit, and you know, we got the shelter in place order, and I thought, well, this is it. You know, we're going to be done. I'm going to lose all the new guys, and I'm going to, you know, I told everybody to file for unemployment because I had no idea what was going to happen. And thankfully we had, you know, a fair amount of customers kind of rally and put some stuff on the books early on. And then like 3 months in, so we got we got that money, and we got a PPP loan, thank God. And we also, amazingly, like timed this to the day. We got because we had just started working with Guitar Center, and that was which is a whole other discussion, but like they're the only people that pay a little differently than the rest of our dealers. So what we tend to do is and we were trying to buy the Plek, which we had bought at that point. So we were kind of grouping as much work together from them to send at one time so that the check would be big, which was not normally how we do things. And, but it's one of the few opportunities I have that I can get kind of a nice large check and then write a nice large check to somebody in return, which is basically how we bought the Plek. Because otherwise it's kind of, you know, we get billed as each guitar is done, and we, you know, it's kind of I mean, you can't really see it. It's kind of that like smooth, you're, you know, progressively outrunning the bills, but sometimes it's nice to get that one big check and do something that you can't do otherwise. But that check had come in. I mean, I kid you not, this is how it went down. It came in on I don't know, like a Wednesday. It was in my wallet to go to the bank that day or that next day on Thursday to cash and then write some checks on Friday. And shelter in place happened Thursday that day. And so like, you know, I kind of emailed the couple people that I had bills I was about to pay. And I was like, I have no idea what's going to happen. And I knew they were in the same boat, and everybody just kind of went, we'll figure it out. And so like, we were in a position where we could kind of ride that out. And then we had some customer work come in, and then we rode that out, and then we got a PPP loan. And then so everybody stayed home for like 3 months. And I just went to the shop and worked solo because can't infect myself, I guess. Right. You know, but the crazy thing was at the end of those 3 or 4 months, I mean, we had probably, I don't know. I mean, this makes it sound big time, but it's not. But we probably had $150,000 or $200,000 of work evaporate when shelter in place happened. Like it just, everything paused or canceled or, you know, and I didn't have any hard feelings because you know, no one knew what was going on. But like 3 months in, I was starting to get panicky emails from dealers like, you know, hey, we've sold everything. What do you have right now that you can send us? And I'm like, not much, because I've been working by myself. But you know, and then it's just been that way for the last year and a half. It's been insane. It makes me feel really guilty saying that, because I would trade every bit of this to be out of the pandemic in a heartbeat, like in an absolute heartbeat. There's been so much other stress and other things that have gone on because of this. But it's been fortunate for us because, you know, I've got 5 people that depend on me, and you know, they've been paid, they've been able to work. We've been able to get bonuses and raises to everybody and be in a position that I've fought for 13 years now to be in, honestly, like finally feeling like the shop's firing on all cylinders. And, you know, I have a 1.5 year backlog of work right now. And it's not because we're not getting to it. Like it's coming in, you know, finally have same thing. Like it's taken me 13 years to get good dealers. Last time we talked, we weren't even doing dealers. We had bad experiences with stores. And, you know, we're finally, I think, a well enough established brand that the stores that we would have liked to have been in we're finally in and doing business with. And so we've had some really good, really fortunate luck, and we tried to pay that back as much as we could with all the raffle work we did last year and donation guitars and, supporting food banks and just trying to help people get through this as best we could. We've been real fortunate. I got COVID in January when my family got exposed outside of work. We have never had an exposure at work. Everybody at the shop has kept it tight. Because I kind of knew it. Like, I would feel horrible if I got somebody sick, but I would also like to keep the shop going to keep everybody paid. So it's kind of, the hippie in me is the empathetic side, and the greedy capitalist in me, and the other side's like, no, I can't shut down. We got too much to do. Yeah. So it's been crazy.
We kind of went through a similar situation with Stringjoy when the lockdowns first happened. I still remember to this day where I was, because, I wasn't going around and seeing anybody, and I wasn't like going, into stores other than just to get the bare necessities and get out. But like, I remember like I was in one of those situations where I was headed to a Safeway, and I got a call from Scott, and I talk to him almost every day, so that's not that unusual. But I was pacing outside of the Safeway on the phone with him, and we were basically like, ran all the numbers, and we're like, we've got 6 months. Like,
which is good, really. I mean, we had, 3 days later, we would have had about a week's worth of income left.
It was just and that was a progressive thing. It wasn't like everybody can stay home permanently for 6 months. It was, okay, well, after this many weeks, we gotta get rid of this thing, and we're gonna have to let this person go on unemployment, and it was like a progressive thing to get there. But it was like, we got 6 months of nothing, and we're done. We're just done. And that was kind of terrifying, because they've worked so hard, and I've poured a lot of my mental energy into it as well. And it's a big part of my identity in a lot of ways at this point.
Yep.
It's trying to help the company along. And it was really weird to think like, wow, this is all just going to go away.
Dude, it was scary. I mean, the shop would have survived. I could do the bare minimum enough by myself to know that I wasn't going to miss rent. I wouldn't accomplish much more than that, but I could pay rent, get enough out to keep that going. But I would have lost. I was worried I was going to lose, especially Andrew. He's been with me 10 years. I mean, that's an irreplaceable guy.
Right.
And we had just kind of, leading up to that, brought almost an entire turnover on our crew. Like Ben and Tyler had left, so I had a new painter. Well, at the time, she's more of a painter now than she was at the time, but she was helping like the first half of finishing. And I had a new assembly guy, and I had a new guy, Logan, who was doing cutting and buffing and kind of helping with the racks and doing kind of shipping and that stuff, or kind of our pitch guy. But it was weird. We went to, so we got the Plek. Joe Glazer flew out. We got it right at the beginning of the year. It showed up right after I came back from Winterdam. And then Joe flew out from Nashville 2 weeks before the world shut down, like right there. And I remember we were having this discussion. He's like, I think I haven't seen her yet. Like, he and his girlfriend had traveled internationally before NAM, and then they split up. And, he's like, she's sick right now. I think she might actually have COVID. And I remember thinking, okay, maybe, whatever.
Right.
And then we kind of could feel the way that things were going. And we went to a Kings game, Sacramento Kings game. And that was the game where the NBA shut down. They came out, sang the national anthem, and then went, you have to leave. And it was because we were playing the Jazz. And that was like the day before. It was the guy that licked all the microphones that tested positive. That was the day before. Okay. And he tested positive in the locker room as they were coming out to play. And that was it. Like, they shut it down, and we walked out and went, we might have made a big mistake coming here. Right. And then that was the next day is when everything shut down. Like, it was that, it is I'm sure people are tired of hearing about, but it is a surreal event to have gone through, still be going through. And how, just like a switch, that was it. It wasn't something that, we kind of just kept thinking, well, maybe we'll get it contained, whatever, not a big deal. And then it was like, oh no, they sent everybody home and across the state. Like, it's done. Like, it's a big deal.
Yeah, it's so strange because, like, I remember the last in-person podcast. People are so tired of me talking about this. I haven't talked to Doug in a long time. Cut me some slack. The first in-person, or the last in-person podcast I did was with one of my favorite songwriters, Dave Hawes. He was in town. We went to the concert. My wife and I had a great time. We hung out with them and recorded for who knows how long. It was great. Like, it was fantastic. I can't believe I get to do this. And we had a great time at the show, went home, and it was literally like that next day.
Yep.
My whole Instagram feed was nothing but my favorite artists canceling their tours, including Dave. Like, we just saw Dave. Like, we were literally just talking to him. He's like, gotta cancel the tour. It might have been been 2 days later. It was somewhere in that.
But it's still like that. Yeah.
It was just like, I was just talking to him, and now the tour's canceled. Yeah. And then, like, as things started rolling around, and the podcast listeners will probably remember this. It's like, oh, it was not quote unquote here at the time, but my family super had COVID in December of 2020. Like, I didn't know that's what it was. I just knew we'd been so sick in our whole life.
Yep.
It was insane. And I was worst flu I've ever had. I don't know what's going on. We both were going, I don't know what's going on. Our whole family was just like dropping food off at the door. And this was before COVID was. Yeah. And in retrospect, it's like, we didn't test, but we super had it.
Yep.
Like, there's no way that we didn't.
That happened to us. My sister-in-law was my wife's brother's family. So my sister-in-law, she was going to community college to get a different degree, and same thing. Like, they had just started having cases at that. Like, right as everything was shutting down, they had an outbreak there, and they got just insanely sick. Like, had to go in for oxygen treatment, sick. And but that was right when, like, this was starting and the tests were garbage. And so they kept testing her and it kept coming back negative, but she had all of it, the breathing issues and the no smell, no taste, and all of it. And like, they're like, you have it. We don't know why the test says you don't, but you have it. Yeah. And that was, that was same thing. We were dropping food at the door, like, don't even get near. And, thankfully when it went through our house, it's unscientific of me to say it this way. I do believe that a lot of how sick you get, at least maybe before Delta, is how much exposure you get right off the bat in one shot. And I think at least the mitigation measures we had been taking knocked it down to where it was something that stayed kind of within what our immune systems could handle. Because my two youngest and I got it. My wife managed to avoid it. And we all had it very mildly, thank God. But it was, 3 weeks of lost time in the shop for me. It was, okay, not gonna lie, kind of nice. I felt bad for my poor wife because we all basically just took corners of the house and couldn't do anything. She had to sleep on an air mattress in the family room for like 3 weeks, and try to teach from the hall because she's a teacher, so she was still teaching classes and dealing with the kids and Zoom issues, which is constant, which is why I had to move rooms to get this to work a second time. And I'm in the bedroom just hearing it all. I'm like, I can't come out and help. So good luck. I just watched Star Trek and texted Mike Adams a bunch just to nerd out and pass the time. And, it was kind of nice. It's kind of what I'm doing again right now, a little bit, honestly. But it was, man, it's been an experience. It has, I think fundamentally though, the thing I will always be most proud of with my business is, especially before kind of the wave of business picked up, like that stretch of being able to hustle and keep all my guys, none of them had to actually go on unemployment, which was thankful because it took so long before they even got, anything from EDD. And that's not their fault. I mean, few million people applied on the same day, I'm sure. Right. And I got everybody paid. Nobody in the shop got sick. We were able to come back to work at some point and keep things going. And that's a big accomplishment.
It is. It's a good thing, and it's a, weirdly, like in that same conversation, it was like where we got 6 months. It was like weirdly and somewhat unexpectedly, although hindsight's 2020, so it kind of makes sense. 2020, but but the guitar industry, it performed fabulous.
Nuts.
It went absolutely insane. I mean, Fenders and Gibson, or Fender sold, I know that from talking to some people that work there, they sold more guitars in 2020 than they've ever sold, ever.
Yeah.
And they said the same thing in 2019.
Yeah.
So,
I think Taylor was the same way. And
Taylor's was backlogged, like, it felt like 6 months into it. Taylor was backlogged like a year and a half or something. I was hearing. So it's just insane. And now we're struggling with, I'm sure you can relate to this, trying to get materials, just barely keeping up with that. And it's a pain. And
it's been tough.
Wonder when that is going to not be an issue.
I don't know. We've had all kinds of stuff. Bigsby's have been unobtainable for a year and a half. Nickel plated Firebird tuners, the Clusons that we get, suddenly 4 months out. And I had to go through and buy all of them anywhere I could find them online, any price. I bought them all. Mitch at Emerson had issues with getting pots, and so we had to switch brands temporarily. Right. And of course, right as and then like that's the other thing people don't understand right now. Like I'm buying quantities under the guise of I may need it 3 months from now, and they have it now, so I'm going to buy all of it. Right. Which is not normally how we operate. So we're tripping over parts and cardboard and pots and whatever we can get, and then there's always just something like that's one upside. I kind of always intentionally done this. But tuners have always been a struggle a bit. So Banshee, the Setnecks, and Coronas use different tuners for each one. So Banshee obviously uses the banjo style. Right. And then we use Spurzle for the Setnecks, and then we use Hipshot for Coronas. So at least I've got some flexibility there. If one is out of production or stock for a while, I can shift over to building something else. And that's kind of what we've been doing. And but some stuff is like the pots are tough because we really love the Emersons. And so it was really tough when we got to a point where we're like, I had to buy something else for a while. And it kind of broke my heart for Mitch a little bit. And it finally caught up and worked out. But yeah, it's been crazy. Wood has been okay-ish for us because we use kind of an odd combos of wood that is not super commercial demand. Right. It's not and we buy so much of it. And the mill and the lumber company we work with, they're really good about it. So that hasn't been huge, except for swamp ash, and that's not just me; that's everybody's problem. But the thermal pine, Spanish mahogany, Wenge, that's all good. Bamboo for the racks is actually not been too difficult to get, but it went up in 2016 when a bunch of tariffs got put in place and has never come down. And I've been kind of eating the middle on that for 4 or 5 years now, and I gonna have to finally just raise prices. I give up. But yeah, it's been a challenge. It's been real weird. Cases, I love the guys at Mono. It was like Mono's third OEM account. Like been with them forever. But I had to get a little with him because it just I just kept getting strung along with no real answer. And I was like, I know it's not entirely your fault, but I kind of need to know because I can't get paid until I can ship. So if I can't get cases, I need to know, and I don't need to know after I've been waiting for 3 weeks, right? that you don't know when. Like I need, yeah, we need to get. If you can get me info up front, I can plan accordingly, but I don't want to find out after the fact. So it's they came through too. They always do. It's just been, and that's frustrating because it's that same thing. Like we are so busy. We have never been this busy in my life. And it crushes me every time I feel like we're like, I want to make sure that we come out of this. I don't want to say ahead, but have done as much as we could do during this and positioned ourselves to stay in kind of this level. We're not making Taylor levels of guitars. We're not even making Anderson levels of guitars. We're doing, 4 a week completed right now. We're producing more than that. I need to find a second assembly guy full time, which we have a part-time guy that is going to come back in next week. and I can maybe hopefully work them up because that's where the bottleneck is currently. But yeah, you know, I don't know. I like making people happy. I like getting guitars out the door, and I like paying bills. So I don't love paying the bills, but I like being able to. So
yeah. That is a different thing.
Yeah.
People pay the bills. I hate doing it. I don't want to pay bills. Oh, we don't need bills.
I do like having the lights on, and I like living indoors, so I'll do it begrudgingly.
Yeah. The alternative is not too appealing.
It's not as fun. No.
Yeah. So with all that being said, all that busyness that you're experiencing, have you had even time to play? Like,
no. Oh God, no. No. It's actually gotten embarrassing. So kind of the same boat. Like when everything shut down, my wife and I were playing because she plays guitar, but she sings mostly. She plays keyboard, and she's very talented. And her whole family are all musicians and stuff. I mean, it's kind of how her and I met in the first place. But so we had started playing guitar acoustic together a lot. And then even that just kind of in that drudgery of our kids constantly being home and around and not being able to go anywhere, it kind of, you know, I just haven't played nearly as much as I should in the last 2 years, honestly. And because I don't do assembly normally, I don't really play new stuff all that often. Like if it's a new design, I'll go in and play it. You know, so like when the first Coronas hit, I was, you know, even though it's essentially a fancy Titan KR1,
right?
You know, it was the first time I did Ash and Pine, and so I wanted to play those. And I actually the guitar that I play most often is my Corona, honestly. But I just don't get. I have gotten time to play acoustic. I still get to play acoustic from time to time. But what I haven't had in a year and a half is what I call a pants flappingly loud amplifier session. Like because it literally, my kids just started school in person again yesterday. So like they have been home for almost 2 years and a year and a half, and they do not find it entertaining at all. They don't like it. They're not impressed. Actually, my youngest, I don't remember what she got in some tiff about cleaning her room or something. And like the way our house is kind of laid out, and because I have so many freaking amps, there's a row of amps that kind of lines the hallway that their bedrooms are off of. And so I think I took a page out of the Marines playbook and just cranked up my Benson that happened to face her bedroom.
Right.
And just kept playing really loud guitar until she cleaned her room. And then, you know, she'd just be, "Hey, you gotta stop. What are you doing?" I'm like, "Well, stop when you start cleaning your room." "I can't do it." "Okay, here we go. Right back
more power chords.
I was like, "Man, that amp sounds good. I forgot how good that amp is." You know, that's it. Like, it's just, you know, Nick, my assembly guy, he comes in later, but he stays after I leave, and he has his own key to lock up the shop. But there's definitely times I'm like, did it really take you that long to put that guitar together? Or were you just playing around at the shop because no one was there? He's like, "No, I was playing around." Like, I get it. I used to do that too.
Totally. So going back to the Titan stuff, you said it went pretty much how you anticipated it.
Yeah.
I don't know that the general public necessarily feels the same way. I think a lot of people are like, "Wait, what happened?"
Sure. Maybe
you can explain the rise and I guess not fall, but like the discontinuing of the line.
No, it fell. Yeah. So Titan, for people who don't know, was our attempt to do a sub $2,000 guitar, which is, if anyone had ever talked to me who was trying to start a boutique guitar business, would know that I've told them it's impossible. And it's impossible for a couple reasons. It's not the money as much. You can do it. Now, I have 3 CNC machines. I have a computerized UV curing booth. I mean, we only spray UV finishes. We didn't have the Plek at the time, but we were buying. It was part of why we did it under a different brand. Was we were buying the necks from Grover Jackson, and they were built to our spec and Plek to help us save us some time. The problem is not so much the money; it's what you're competing against at that money. At any price point, whether it's $5,000 or $2,000 or $1,500, whatever. So when you're in that $12,000 to $2,000 range, the people that buy those guitars, and not always, but this has been my experience, that's the amount of money that they have available to spend on a guitar. The problem is at $1,500, that also buys you a nice Fender, that buys you a decent, well, are there any decent Gibsons? Okay, that's a whole other thing. But a decent, bigger name guitar, and more often than not, that's what people want. If they're moving up the stratosphere in terms of what they can spend, or up the pyramid, let's say, that's usually what they want, is their first like good Fender, their first good Gibson. So you're competing against that in a way that a $4,000 Banshee is not, because if you've got $4,000 to spend on a Banshee, you've already gone through all the Fender stuff and Gibson stuff,
right?
You know what I mean? And I'm not begrudging at any price. I'm not begrudging. Like, I get it. So we would lose on the name first. So that was kind of why I was skeptical if Titan would work at all. I'm extremely proud of what we did, because I cannot think now. I think it's impossible to do it now with inflation, not inflation, but the way prices have gone up on so much stuff. But at the time in 2015, 2016, we built an entirely California made guitar. So we made the body, Grover made the neck. The pickups came from Seymour Duncan and not the import line like the Southern California American made Duncans. It had Godos. That was probably the only part that was overseas, really, besides the pots and the switch, which you can't even get. But they were Emerson's pots, and a CRL or a Switchcraft switch and jack, Dunlop strap buttons, and the bridge was made in Nashville at Advanced Plating. It was a real quality product. And we made that guitar for $1,300 out the door. And it was a hell of an accomplishment. And we made money. We could make money. Ultimately, we just ran up against two things. Well, three things. One was, I think we sold all of the ones we were ever going to sell. It just kind of came to a stop, and nothing we tried broke it loose past a certain point. So the only way to have gone beyond that would be to have, I think, realistically had $1 million ad budget and advertise. And how you do that when you're selling guitars for $1,300, it's real difficult. So we ran up against that. And then ultimately what we ran up against was, and this is partially my fault, if we had been smart in the beginning and staffed up and created a staff to just do Titans, it may have lasted a bit longer. Not likely, but it could have gone longer. But we got to a point where as Titans started to drop, two things had happened with Cower. One, like 2016, all we made was Titans. I think we made like 25 Cowers that year. We were so busy on Titan, we just didn't have the time. Like, that was the staffing problem. We couldn't do both. And then as Titan started to drop and we kind of put our foot back on the gas for Cower kind of went up quickly. And suddenly it was like, well, the same four people are going to be building this guitar either way. And am I either going to have them work on the guitar that we make $300 on or $400 on, or am I going to have them work on the one that makes us maybe $1,500? And it became kind of a no-brainer at that point. Once those two things kind of evened up, and it wasn't enough Titan demand to generate that I would have felt comfortable bringing staff on just to do this, that at that point, it was over with. It just kind of one of those things that it, became unsustainable at a certain point. And it's frustrating because the guitar was so good. And again, that's why it became the Corona. I love it. I actually play mine a lot still. And the one thing that didn't happen that I was sure that was going to be what killed Titan was that the used value stayed really well. Honestly, they didn't immediately flood out on the used market. And I think a lot of that was because of at the time when we were doing the pickguard options, that kept it as a guitar that you didn't necessarily want to sell. You could just buy a new pickguard, load it out with different pickups, and then have it, and so that kept them off the used market because we made like 300 of them. And we did quite a bit. So that, and in the past, anytime we had done a guitar, like Daylighter Jr. was like this, like that was our originally supposed to be open grain, 3 color choices, no options, P90 wraparound only thing. And then it became something that immediately had gloss finish and a bunch of options, and the price didn't really go up. And then immediately they all ended up in the used market and for cheap. And it was always, I'm like, it's probably we don't make too many juniors, even though I freaking love a junior. it's people buy it because it was the cheapest thing we made at the time. And then they immediately realize, oh, I wish I had 2 pickups. And then they just dump it for cheap. And then it just killed us. We did a ton of them. And then it literally switched off and we never made another one. Like we couldn't give them away. And so Titan thankfully didn't do that. And they still actually hold their value pretty well. Also, when you start at $1,300, I mean, how much lower can you go before it's cheaper just to part it out? But yeah, and then the equivalent Titans that we were doing that had Lawlers or TV Jones, because you could get them like that, you had to pay the difference. They were $1,900. They weren't cheap guitars. Mm-hmm. They weren't expensive, in my opinion. They basically would have ended up about $2,000 if we were toward $2,200 right around the end. And you figure Corona is about $3,000 with pine or ash instead of basswood, and binding and gloss finish. That's what you're paying it for. Otherwise, it's basically the same. Mm-hmm. And the roast, maple neck and stuff, and some other things. But that's where our price difference is in the upscale version of it.
Right.
But yeah, it was tough. It was a lot of fun, and it did accomplish some. We definitely had people that bought Titans, and even recently, and then moved up to Cowers, which is great. It was just kind of went how I figured it would go.
I was going to ask you if you thought that most of the people who bought Titans were already thinking about a Cower. If you maybe sabotage some Cower sales by having the Titan.
I think in the short run, probably. Yeah. And I definitely had a lot of early adopters were Cower owners, and there is a lot to be said for the cool thing about was a Titan is you got a satin finish Cower essentially that you didn't care if you beat up on a blues jam night or whatever, versus a nice Argonaut or a Super Chief or something where you maybe don't want to take that out
right
to a show. So we definitely had some of that too, and that was nice. But not enough to keep it going ultimately. And actually, ironically, it was the pick guards that finally made. I was like, I'm done. I'm done doing this.
Really?
They're still a pain in the ass. I was actually, before I came home today, was doing Corona pick guards, and a lot of that's the CNC. It's just a pain. Our old CNC is kind of a pain in the butt. I've been moving stuff over to the new one, but they're just time intensive. Especially because we started getting to the point where people were ordering pick guards with I want a Jazzmaster in the bridge and a Jaguar in the neck, and I want a Firebird in the neck, or a Jag in the middle and a Firebird in the neck, and they're from 3 different companies, and I want the switching options, and it was just you'd make this pick guard, and
it sounds
by the end of the day,
pick guard.
Oh, it has to be more than that, honestly. By the end of the day, I have a full day into it, plus the cost of parts and hardware. And then you would have to, ironically, especially when you got into situations where you'd have 2 different pickup suppliers, there was always phasing issues. So you'd have to throw it in a junk body to put a string across it to make sure that all the pickups were in phase. And I'm like, man, if I got 8 hours into this thing, plus parts and, hardware, I'm like,
wow,
it's going to be a $1,200 pick guard. And we were making there were 3 or 4, we weren't making money on any of it. And so I was like, yeah, this is not sustainable. Yeah. The good news is, because I still get people who ask about Andrew at DecoBoom Designs. He has all of the Titan files, and so he can still make pick guards for people. And if you just are willing to put them together yourself, you could still get the pick guards, at least the physical pick guard.
Right.
So that's been pretty good.
Cool. Yeah, that's interesting. I really wanted to talk to you about that because I've been really involved in trying to do, I don't want to say the same thing, but looking at the economics of doing a line that's more in that ballpark. Mm-hmm. And it's I'm seeing all the same things that you're talking about. I'm just
yep.
Wow. The economies of scale that Fender has to have to make really nice guitars at that price point is bananas.
Yeah. I mean, I had a conversation once and okay, so let's say Godos, okay, which are great. They cost me $45, $50 a set, which is amazing. It's a good price for them.
Yeah.
Fender will pay more than like 3 cents for a guitar's worth of tuners. Like
Right.
they don't, that's just, and they can do that because they do
that because they're going to
thousands a month.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Million.
Yeah. And so we were doing things that Fender can do, and we were making it work, but just barely, like without all the advantages that Fender has and stuff. The only person I know who's really been successful, I think, doing the sub $2,000 thing, Dunnable seemed to be doing pretty well with that. At least I don't know where they're at now price wise, but they had kind of the import thing they were doing that went pretty well. And Sully Guitars has this import line, and I don't even know if that's below $2,000 anymore.
Mm-hmm.
But it's Korean made line, but it takes same boat. Like okay, so you go to Korea, or figuratively, you get your line of guitars made. You bring in a literal container load of them. Now you got to figure out where you're going to put a container load of them.
And you have to have capital to order a container load of them.
Yep. And then you got to store them and ship them and set them all up. And then you still get, he's got a pretty high attrition rate for stuff he rejects.
Mm-hmm.
So you got all those that you got to deal with. And it sucks. It's tough, man. It's real tough.
Yeah. I was going to say the only one I can think of that's doing it right now, and he's doing it at like a very small scale because it's just him, is a Boot over at BA Ferguson.
Yep.
Because I ordered one.
Yeah, I love Boot. That guy's the best, man.
So awesome. But I ordered one from him, and I was thinking about it. I'm like, man, this can only work in a very specific situation.
Yep. Yep. I would, to be honest, I don't know how he's making it work. Like I mean, I know how he's making it work, but I think he's undervaluing himself more than trying to make a bargain. I think it's more, I don't know.
Cars are really good.
Yeah. Dude, the Flyweight's killer. I love what he does. I think it's killer. And, okay. Same thing though. Like I have all of the resources at my disposal. And now with the Plek, and Corona's $3,200 now on average. Like I just can't. Now it's also because we're selling them to dealers, so I have to factor that in too.
Right.
But I don't think I could do a direct only for less than $2,300 now. On anything. That's kind of like maybe $2,000 would be right about the limit, but
right.
It's tough.
It's a weird thing, and the scale plays into that so much, and that's what people don't really understand. That's what's so, I know we're just turning this into the business episode, but I guess
no, it's important. Like I get people who kind of do that. Hasn't happened in a while, but like, how it goes, like, your guitar's overpriced. I'm like, dude, come work in the shop for a week and tell me it's overpriced.
Mm-hmm.
Order cardboard and tell me what's overpriced.
Right.
Just to get the packaging that we use for the boxes for our guitars is thousands of dollars. And I have to buy, hundreds of boxes at a time and the packing inserts. And it's a cool system that we have. And we designed one box that works for everything we make, regardless of if it's band sheet length or regular. And it's amazing. Still costs a fortune. Mm-hmm. And it's not like I can buy one at a time. I have 3 pallets. Oh my God. My shop looks like an Amazon factory. There's like pallets of cardboard between the DRS line and the guitar line. They're everywhere. Like I actually have to bring out another unit of material, which is 1,000 board feet. And I had to call our supplier. I'm like, don't bring it yet. Like because of my absence from the shop last week, I haven't finished getting through the last pallet. There's just no room. And I got 6,000 square feet and there is no room. I have 3,000 feet. The other half is the other business, but the other 3,000 feet, but it's the same thing. We share the space. So yeah, it sort of counts.
It's such a crazy thing for most people to even think about. Like, I remember I was talking to, this is years and years ago, like I guess he was a business consultant. I didn't really have a business at the time, but I was just floating some different things. And I was thinking, first, it's hilarious now to think about, but I was like, what about guitar strings? And he's like, do you realize how many guitar strings you'll have to sell to actually make this work? And I was like, oh, yeah. That sounds bad. Fast forward like a year and a half and I get involved with Scott, but like really, really, truly, like you go to that place and it's like, there are literally thousands of sets of strings going out of that place in order to make it work.
Yep. Yep.
And the things that go into, that's why there's not that many string companies actually making that stuff. Because it's
absolutely.
Ridiculous.
Well, it's certainly the last year has exposed a lot of that. I think we're with how much industry I guess I'm sorry to sound techie, industry disruption there's been. You don't think about my cardboard supplier. Okay. The dyes they use, they don't make those in house. The guys that make the dyes don't, they depend on something else, and then it depends on somebody else, and then and then all of a sudden you can't get what you need because 7 links removed from here has got an issue. And it's like, oh my God. And ironically, on that same note, I've learned more about cardboard in the last 3 years than I ever wanted to know. My neighbor is the sales rep manager for one of the biggest cardboard facilities in the Sacramento Valley. Well, I mean, and they're not, international, but like for this one, they literally don't have time for anyone who's not on Amazon. And that's what I heard from almost every place I dealt with. It was like, I finally found one place that would return my phone calls just to get boxes made. And I had to buy like 2,000 of each box. And these are not small boxes, and finally I've kind of found out the place we use now is great. We can work a little smaller quantities, but like that stuff is what happens when you're little, man. Yeah. It sucks.
When you go like, okay, we're going to order boxes and we're going to have to order 40,000 boxes.
Yeah.
Like, what in the world is going on right now?
We reached a point with one of the boxes for the racks that for one item of the racks that we don't do much business in. And the way they design the packaging just doesn't work. And finally I was like, I hauled 2,000 boxes to a recycling yard because it's like, I'm never going to use them. We realistically don't have the space. And I need to redesign the packaging anyway, because it's just not working. We're losing about half of them to damage. And I'm like, I don't know what else to do with this stuff. I guess just recycle it.
Yeah. It's like, well, it was nice just to light all that money on fire. And
yep.
Yeah. But these are the things that like I really don't think that consumers in general think about. And I think about it now for everything. I'm like, my wife gets annoyed with me. I'm like, sometimes, I mean, here's a good example of economies of scale at work. I was at the local Fred Meyer, which is love Fred Meyer. Yeah, Fred Meyer rules. A lot of people don't know what Fred Meyer is, but yeah. Looking at barbecues just as I'm walking by, it's a big, not huge, but a regular size stainless steel barbecue, gas fired, $199.
Okay.
I'm like, how is that barbecue?
The steel's worth more.
I'm like, it's stainless steel. It's big. It had to get shipped here. I know it ships in a box, but somebody put it together. It shipped here in a fairly large box. I know it was made overseas, so they're shipping there. I'm going, how many of these barbecues did they have to order from the manufacturer for the manufacturer to make it work?
Yeah.
And to be able to sell them for a guitar pedal price.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
What in the world? I'm just going, my mind's just blown. She's like, why do you care about this stuff? I'm like, well, it's really interesting if you actually start working on this stuff.
Yeah.
It shows you how important scale is to a business. It really
that was one of the biggest takeaways from Titan that I will never be upset about. Why it even though it petered out was we approached Titan like that. Like, hey, if we get rid of 2 pick guard screws, it saves us this cumulatively. If I can squeeze $1 out here and $1 out there, or save an hour here and pay a little extra to save that hour, is it, those kinds of lessons. And it was the first time we had done guitars where it was consistently one model and made them over and over and over again. And that really was good at exposing problems that we were having in terms of how we did things, how we produced things, how we bought things that we couldn't see on this week we're going to do 3 Starliners and next week's 2 Banshees, and that kind of pinging back and forth. And then not only that, by consistently making the one model, like finding ways to, I've been programming this old CNC for 22 years. I've got the new one now that's slowly coming online for guitar stuff. Finding those little ways to squeeze 10 minutes out, or 5 minutes out, or 30 seconds, or one less tool change, or, all those things. That really paid off regardless of how Titan went. for everything else. It doesn't always show as much, but like now that Corona's ramping up and when there's 70 or 80 Coronas on order right in this moment in time, that helps. That makes a big difference, like learning those lessons. So.
Yeah. And these are the things they don't teach in most schools.
Yeah.
They just don't.
It's not super interesting, I'm sure, podcast conversation, but it's a big part of it.
It hasn't been, we haven't had a real businessy episode in a while. And it's kind of nice because people need to understand, like you said, you still get people like, this is overpriced. This is overpriced. That's overpriced. This should be this. I can buy this one for this much. It's like, okay, there's reasons why these things are what they are. There's reasons why. It's not like there's hardly anybody out there that's running a business that's working that they just arbitrarily were like, I guess that's the price.
Yeah. Unless you're in healthcare, I guess, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
I'm not like driving away from the shop in my Ferrari and burning, lighting cigars with $100 bills. It's a week to week struggle. Thankfully I somehow managed to keep coming out ahead of it. I don't know how, just luck and hustle and good people in the shop and stuff. But yeah, it's a struggle, man. Like it's every time and luckily I think I haven't had that in a while, to be honest. I haven't had the general complainer. So maybe people have kind of, I don't know, given up on complaining, or maybe that I just troll them back so hard that people have learned not to do that on my Instagram. I don't know. It's kind of been a weird, like, I was having this conversation with Scott Holiday the other day where we've got this baritone we're working on for him, and we're kind of, stuck a little bit on the theme or the finish, because it's just, and I'm like, I feel like the downside to being so busy is I haven't had it. The upside is I don't have to think as hard about like what the next guitar is going to be, because it's already written down what it's going to be. We haven't made anything for fun in ages, but at the same time, we haven't made anything fun in ages, like or for just for the sake of it, like with exception to so Dustin got the Mr. Sparkles Corona, so he got one of the first Coronas, which were the first 10 were all donated, or 15, I think. I can't remember how many it was. And he's like, I want a Mr. Sparkles themed Corona. And you were supposed to not have an option on what the donated Corona was going to be. But I'm like, Dustin also owns a lot of my guitars, and he's such a great dude.
Talking about Dustin B, right?
Yep. Yeah.
Oh, he's big. Yeah, he's big Tone Mob guy too. So shout out. Yep.
Yeah. And when he said Mr. Sparkles, like, yeah, I want to do that. And so that guitar that came out ridiculous. It was, I might honestly just steal it back for NAMM, because I'm not going to have time to do something that ridiculous for NAMM. And then I had, ironically, we had two different people order two different guitars within a week of each other that were both Star Wars themed. And so one was this guy wanted a Corona, and I wanted to look like Han Solo's pants. And I was like, is that a thing?
What?
Yeah, I'm like, or is that a sex thing? Like, is it like a Star Wars thing? And it was, thank God. And so that one came out. Like, we went, and that was Tim and I was like, I just went crazy on it, because I was like, I haven't done anything weird in a while. So I had like push buttons that lit up for the pickup selectors, and like instead of volume and tone knobs, they had sliders, so it looked like the throttle on a Millennium Falcon, and just dumb stuff. And then the other one was an R2D2 Banshee, and so I got to do same thing there. And I had, the trick is for those is there's a certain line you have to come up to and not cross before it goes from like, this is fun and cool to like the Corvette Les Pauls. They're like, oh, you just put Corvette on the fretboard, and now you want no, that's not. You kind of missed it here. Like you gotta. There's a line, and so those were really fun.
Mm-hmm.
But like, yes, like Scott and I have been in this rut. Like, he's like, oh, we could do this. I'm like, yeah, I could do that. It's like, well, what about this? I'm like, I could do that. It's like, well, could you make me a double neck baritone? I'm like, you already have the one double. I'm not doing that again. I did that. Paul Gretsch, they like you. I'm not doing it. No, whatever. But so it's been tough. It's like, that's the one tough thing. It's kind of sitting with like the guitar playing. Like we're so busy. I don't have time to play guitar. We're so busy. I haven't had as much time to do just something weird for the fun of it. or whatever. But at the same time, I get a lot of credit for like outrageous finishes we do and they have thought up over the years, but most of the time they're customer ideas. So it's, I mean, I like getting the credit for it. I wish it was me. It's just not most of the time. So it's been kind of both. Like CME's been doing all those Metal Flake Banshees, and they've been a lot of fun. And actually, I have another one I have to post here later today. But like, we got to do the shop truck Super Chiefs a couple years ago. Those were Christmas presents for my dad and I.
Those were cool.
Yeah, and they're not outrageously creative. They were just neat, fun ones to do. It's like kind of hoping. Actually, we haven't talked about it yet. But one of the things we've been doing in the shop, we were going to launch at NAMM, but since we're scaling NAMM back because not entirely convinced NAMM's actually going to happen this year, we're going to launch an employee build series, and they're still basically just built in the shop like anything else, but they're spec'd out by Andrew or Alex or Logan or Nick, and they can do a couple things. They can pull from the back catalog that we don't offer to anybody else. So if they want to build a Daylighter or an Argonaut or any of the discontinued models, they can do that. They can do anything the key is they can do anything they want, balanced with the fact that if that sells, they get 15% off the top of the guitar.
Okay.
So it's kind of a cool
something that they think people will like too.
That's the trick. Yeah. Now, if they want to build something that they want, that's fine. But if they want to get a nice hefty bonus out of it, essentially, then they gotta be in my shoes a little bit, where like I want to build something out a little weird, but I don't, I gotta be willing to own this thing if nobody wants it,
right?
And so Andrew's got a Starliner Deluxe going right now with an Ambrosia top and the original style picker, which we haven't done in a few years. And then I think Alex and everybody's got something specced out, but I don't think they've really like pushed it into the pipeline yet. I've got a carved top Starliner I'm doing as a custom penguin, with the sparkle binding. I'm gonna do it like an ocean turquoise version with the gold binding and stuff. That will maybe be at NAMM. That may just end up for sale. I don't know which yet. So we got a few. Seems a little unfair that I get to claim a 15% cut, but I mean, I'm the lowest paid employee in the shop, so I think it's fair. We'll see. I don't really care if I get a cut, but I'm doing that because I'm hoping to get them to kind of encourage them to do that, to start slipping ideas, because they all have great ideas, and it takes a little bit of the mental strain off of me, so that I don't have to think of the few chances we get to slip something into production. Let them do it. So that'll be cool. And then Logan, who came on. Oh God! Right at the end of time has no meaning now. 2019, he had just started before everything kind of shut down. He's he worked at Rickenbacker before us. He's a Guitar Institute grad. He's actually a bass player, and he has his own line of basses that he designed, and we helped him finish. Like he had built like the last one before he moved to Sacramento. That was all the woodwork was done, so we finished it in the shop, and I really liked it. And so I'm going to help him get that off the ground using the shop, because he may only do a few or maybe a dozen a year. And that gives me an opportunity to teach him. What I'm hoping is he's going to learn how to use, because he knows how to use the CNC, but not how to program it. Mm-hmm. And not really nobody in the shop has that skill set besides me. And when Paul was in the shop, I taught him, and then he could do it himself too. So I'm hoping to, kind of doing this with Logan, helping him get his bases going. I'm showing him how to do the programming, and we're kind of working our way through it. And also because I want to do it exclusively on the new CNC, it's forcing me to get better about learning that software and stuff. And so, yeah, I think it's going to work. So that's kind of exciting. I'm looking forward to both of those things. I'm hoping maybe end of the year we might have some stuff to show there as employee stuff. It'll be kind of a cool thing to launch. Yeah, I don't know. I hope so.
Interesting, just to get another creative brain in there that's not yours. Like everyone's got a different perspective, and these people work on these all day long.
Yep. Yeah, and like
a lot of things.
Everybody builds their own guitar in the shop at some point. Like Nick has a Corona, and Alex has a Super Chief. That was actually her senior year project 4 years ago. And Andrew's got a handful of guitars and stuff. So like they have stuff they've built for themselves. I want them to get used to the idea of speccing out builds that they think will sell. And then I want them to be rewarded for it because, those guys, everybody in the shop works their butt off, and we build a much better guitar as a team than I do by myself. So, I always want to take advantage of that. And it's not necessarily that like, it's not in the same regards of like I try to have when somebody builds a guitar for themselves, like Nick, who's at the end of the process. I like it. I wanted him to go through the start to finish at least once, so that maybe when he's having issues at the end, if he sees that they're a consistent issue, he might know where in the chain that issue might be.
Okay.
So that's a good thing for everybody to do at least once. But this would be more like just spec it out. You're going to do your normal job on it and hand it off like you normally would. But it's your spec'd out one. So it'll be Cower, Super Chief, Alex spec, or whatever it's going to be, or an Andrew spec. So I think it's going to be exciting.
It'll be fun. That will be fun. Excited to see what they come up with.
Me too.
All right, man. Well, we have crested the hour mark, the magical hour mark. We'll slide over and do some Patreon action. But before we do that, I've introduced some stuff.
Sure.
Towards the end of the podcast these days that we didn't do in the beginning. So,
okay.
First being, before we get into the classic questions, this is your chance to grab the microphone and give a shout out to Uncle Harold, or say whatever you want to say to a few thousand people. This is your time to shine.
Well, again, I just got to thank my crew, man. They Alex, Nick, Logan, and Andrew, those guys, they all work their butts off, and they've all. The funniest thing about the shop in that regard is, like, we've been trying to go through and hire a second assembly person and stuff. Almost, with the exception of Nick, almost everybody I've hired ends up not doing the job I thought I had hired them for. It ends up being a better fit somewhere else. And so it's always kind of this, like, why I'm painting again and slowly whittling back out compared to 4 years ago when we had a kid who we hired to do sanding and ended up being a better painter, or, that kind of stuff. And so it's fun to watch, everybody grow in their own ways and find their little niche, and they're doing a great job. And, I'm very fortunate like that. I got a good wife who, lets me do this for a living, essentially, because she has a real job, and thankfully insurance, which has been very critical this year, apparently.
Right.
But no, those guys are all fantastic.
Cool. All right, here we go. We're going to get into the classic questions. The first one being, what is your favorite Boss pedal?
Oh, Boss pedal, huh? I don't actually think I've ever had a Boss pedal. Now that I think about it. Yeah, I wasn't really a big pedal guy growing up playing guitar. I think, okay, I will say I had a Boss tuner. I will say that.
Right.
I had that, but I just didn't really have pedals very much. And I kind of skipped all of the traditional MXR. I almost jumped entirely straight to boutique pedals. And that was mostly because by the time I got into them, I knew the guys. I knew Nick Greer, I knew Josh, I knew, everybody. So I don't know. I will say the best Boss pedal is a Metal Zone. I mean, let's be honest.
Yeah,
just for the hilarity of it.
And plus, I hear they're injecting them into people these days.
Well, yeah, I would be pretty happy if that was the case, actually. Though Boss has the best enclosure. The flip up battery tray under the pedal is, I still think, the best of those.
Oh, the whole design is genius. It really is. Like, keep the battery separate from the circuit board. That's super smart. You can't kick the knobs very easily. It's super smart. You can throw it across the yard and it will.
It's like a Nokia phone of pedals.
It'll start fine, likely. I think it's a really, really clever design, and
sure,
it looks cool too. So
somewhere Josh Scott's ready to on a plane to stab me right now, probably, but whatever.
He loves it.
No, I know, because I never had one.
I'm gonna tell on you. All right. Okay. And you did answer this one last time, but sometimes people change. So let's see
Sure.
if you did. What is your favorite kind of pizza?
Oh, okay. So there's a local pizza place. Ironically, this is a guy I knew in high school because he played guitar. They took over like the local pizza place that could never figure out why they kept going out of business, and it's because the crust and the cardboard were the same. So he had good crust and brought in like 40 beers, and now they're gangbusters. They have one that's my favorite, and it is Italian sausage, marinara sauce, cheese, Italian sausage, onions, and like big dabs of mozzarella.
Yeah.
That's probably my favorite. My second favorite, and I can only make this my second because he doesn't listen to a podcast, is my 8-year-old. We were making pizza. I don't know. I want to blame the pandemic. This is probably before, but he made a pizza, and I swear to God, it sounds crazy, but it's dough, honey, mozzarella, apple slices, cinnamon. No, sorry, not honey on the dough. It's just olive oil. Apple slices, honey drizzle, cinnamon, and I think we maybe put down. No, that was it. It's phenomenal. It's a ridiculous pizza. It's so good.
I mean, I have had hot honey on pizzas before. Mike,
Sure.
It's so good. So I can see this working. Not my normal house, but I can see how that would work. I can't.
It was funny because we made all these pizzas, and that what ended up being the surprise. My all-time it was a place in Seattle that went out of business. Well, the guy retired years ago, and that might have been my original answer. It was called the Famous Spinach, and it was a Chicago deep dish in Seattle, owned by a guy from San Jose, which, of course, all of this makes no sense, but it was a great pizza, man. It was just like, deep dish, wheat crust, marinara, spinach, cheese. That's it. And it was so good. I missed that. We would fly to Seattle, and it would be very much we would drive straight there for pizza. That was the tradition.
Nice. Well, good answers, Doug. Thank you for that. That was fun.
You asked a fat guy about food, you're going to get a lot of answers.
Oh, the one thing that I care more about than music.
Oh, man. You want to have a deep dive, we'll start talking about hamburger blends, and this will be a 3-hour podcast.
Well, we can do that on the Patreon section of this podcast. We'll do it. All right?
Sure.
Okay, cool. All right, everybody. For Doug, this is Blake. And as always, folks, good luck and good tones.
There we go. There is an update from my dude, Doug. I hope you enjoyed that episode. I really had a good time talking to him. I always have a good time talking to him. He's a wonderful guy making wonderful instruments. So please check out his work. He is definitely worthy of your attention. Please slide over to his social medias and give that a follow. One quick plug before I sign off for this week. If you have not already, please make sure you sign up for the text chat if you would like some direct conversation with me. It is a really fun thing. I'm so glad I ended up doing it. It's kind of weird, admittedly. It's a little bit strange, but if you text 503-751-8577, you'll get a few automatic replies to allow you to opt into the chat. And then from there, it'll be a chat with me. So I'll send blasts out to the whole community about some article I've found, or some cool thing, or some random thing, or a new song, or, kind of whatever. And then from there, it's a conversation between you and I. Each thread is individualized, and it is genuinely me. That's my thumbs typing the text back, and it's not going to be shared with anybody, ever. It's been a really nice way to stay in touch with people. Some people are deleting their social media accounts and therefore not seeing some of the other Tone Mob content, and I totally understand that. And this has been a great way to stay in touch, especially during, even if that's not you, during the blackouts that we've had. Instagram goes out, Facebook goes out. We were still active on the text chat. And so that was a really good time. It was also kind of refreshing. Like, hey, this is like the early 2000s all over again, which I guess it is a bit of a throwback. New technology adopted in an old way. Old technology adopted in a new way. That's what it is. It's a good time. Check out the number in the show notes if that sounds like something you would like to be a part of. And yeah, let's sign off for this week. Thank you very much for hanging out. I will talk to you next time. Later, Hosen.
One last thing before we totally sign off here, I just want to remind you that if you do any shopping at Stringjoy, that's Stringjoy guitar strings made in Nashville, that will help me out as well. As I've said for years, I'm heavily involved in that company, and I really do think they're making the best products on the market. So if you would like to try custom strings, go to tonemob.com/stringjoy and check them out today. I seriously love what the team down there is doing. I help them out with all kinds of things, and by you supporting them, you are also supporting me as well. And hey, you need some strings, so why not get some custom strings just for your guitar and playing style? Again, the link for that is tonemob.com/stringjoy, and that will take you right to their website, and you can do all your shopping through there, and that will help everyone involved out. So thank you very much. Talk to you next time. We are brought to you by the wonderful folks at Gun Street Wiring Shop. Yes, Gun Street Wiring Shop. I've talked about them before. I used to say based out of Bend, Oregon, but guess what? Sean moved to my neck of the woods. Sean's in Portland. Sean is awesome and has helped me with a bunch of stuff lately. And if you have wiring needs for your guitar, he can help you too. If you want to get weird with it, he can get weird. If you just need to spruce things up a little bit, there's your guy. He takes all the guesswork out of doing your guitar wiring, and he makes it simple, and his customer service is top-notch, and I can't say enough good things about Gun Street as a company. I really respect Sean and what he's all about, and the product is top-notch. I've got 3 different guitars that now have Gun Street harnesses in them, and I could not be happier. So go to gunstreetwiringshop.com and check them out.